Hello class, we are Franco and Wanda, and the subject that we are going to discuss is the current container crisis. We will explain how it came to pass, its impact on a global scale, how the crisis affected Argentina, and its possible solutions.
Hello class. In the first time, we are going to present the news that we select the first week, in which we'll explain what the container crisis is and how it happened. The first article that we are read is about supplier crisis and what about the containers. Maritime transport move more than 18% of everything we consume, and we can group it in 5 large categories depending on the merchandising that is transported or its nature. Soil bulk, like gold, liquid bulk, such as soil, ro-ro cargo, for example, vehicles. General cargo is everything does not fit inside a container, such as subway car, and the containers that transport everything you can imagine, such as clothing, cosmetics, everything. As we can see, maritime containers are used to transport all that we consume. So it's important to have 3 factors that currently affect containers. The first, increase in electronic commerce derived for the new post-confinement customs. The second, a lack of personal imports. And the third, lack of containers.
Well, given this, the logical thing will be to inject more containers into the market. But the big problem is the shortage of steel to manufacture them. And in addition to this, strict confinements occurred during the pandemic in the United States and Europe, while in some Asian countries, it continued to occur relatively normally. Demand for many products contracted dramatically and container traffic became asymmetric, and many of the ships were unable to bring the containers back to Asia, which remained in the United States and Europe. In summary, the pandemic left us with an increase in maritime freight due to the shortage of containers, which are where they should not be and which cause demand to exceed supply.
Now that we know and we understand the severity of this crisis, we can analyze the implications globally. The news that we delivered in the second week explain how the crisis affects the maritime traffic and the global supply chain.
Container crisis brought with it the global supply chain crisis, which suffers from port congestions, lack of containers, and skyrocketing demand. For consumers, it means empty shelves, product shortage, and higher prices. For manufacturers and retailers, it's about delivery delays, inflated transportation fees, and new challenges requiring everyday intervention. This crisis started when the first lockdown restrictions were lifted and consumer demand stacked up. The biggest issue now is a lack of Chinese containers available for transportation, and as a consequence, soaring fees. A large part of containers that are sent to the United States are sent to the United States, stay there, clogging ports instead of being delivered back to China. The unfortunate combination of these factors leads to the perfect storm situation we are facing right now. However, in the fear of delivery delays, supply chain vendors add fuel to the fire themselves. Retailers and manufacturers are over-ordering because of these supply chain issues, and that's just leading to essentially an even worse scenario.
Another article that we select to explain these issues is about the maritime traffic, and the name is "The Suez Canal Shuts Broken Again." The article is about months after the Even Green accident, another ship ran aground. In a deja vu, in September, authorities saw another container ship run aground in the Canal Suez. The blockage lasted for a short time as the ship was refloated quickly on this occasion. Yes, we remember that in March, a container ship ran around and blocked traffic for almost a week, which caused $1 million priority in world trade and unexpected logistic delays. In this moment, the even green ships disrupted the global trade and prompted the debate about developing alternative routes for maritime trade. The Suez Canal, like a major source of revenue for Egypt, the country responded with a plan to widen the canal further and even make it deeper. But like the Evergreen, these ships, named Coral Crystal, was also registered in Panama and was traveling to Sudan runaround. The recent incident occurred 20 kilometers north of the city of Himalaya, and it's reported that affected another 4 ships. The authorities had to suspend the traffic in the canal, and tugboats were used to get the container ship afloat again. Anyway, the issue was resolved in less than an hour, but it's instead of the article because it happened 2 times in this year, and the canal is vital maritime shortcut that reduced the journey time between the Indian Ocean and the North Atlantic.
Now that we have a general overview of the present of the crisis, we will move on the news exposed in the 3rd week, which explains how the container crisis affects, especially in Argentina. The situation of logical collapse that is currently registered at the global level is affecting Argentine agroindustrial and agroindustrial exports due to the lack of containers and ships and due to the changes in contractual conditions stipulated by the main maritime lines.
Freight, which historically could mean between 5% and 10% of this value, today can impact a range between 20% to 50% of the merchandising. Our industrial export was from various sectors are paralyzed due to the lack of the predictability of space on ships, as well changing freight values. Add to this fact the experience of an important stock of merchandising rarely marketed that the moment doesn't have transport options. For the 4th week, we have shown that the container crisis has impacted on how these commercial trades go continue in the future. So we can look for an article that clarifies this situation in the future proxy.
According to the American Association of Port Authorities, the solution to the global logistic crisis will arrive at the end of the second half of 2022. It's assumed that the pre-pandemic status will not be the same, but a better situation of freight for maritime transport is expected, especially towards 2023, when there is a large incorporation of fleets and the COVID situation improves. The current crisis was originated by a series of causes that were accumulating the initial delays and eventual events such as the closure of the Suez Canal that caused failures in the supply of maritime services. At the same time, that there was a sudden increase in demand, especially from the United States. The pandemic affected. Ports were closed, border crossings were closed, everything was causing a succession of cumulative delays, and today all ports are congested.
The goal of the ports is to get along better with each other, with great cooperation, better understanding, and better city-ports relationships. Ports must understand the new reality, the new challenge. There are very advanced ports that have to understand what is coming, but other ports don't. This distance between the second and the first group is increasing. They must share ideas and knowledge because you have to cooperate, because if everything is better, each one will take advantage of their own abilities.
Well,
So
tell me, Wanda.
yes, we have a conclusion.
We hope that this crisis and the consequences of the pandemic will be overcome as soon as possible to have a better hope for the future and for all the people. We know that the crisis has affected everyone to a greater or lesser extent.
Yes, we hope the end of these complex situations comes as soon as possible and gives a break to the people who have suffered so much in recent times. Thank you very much for listening us our work, and we wish you a happy holidays. Thank you, Miss.